You allow the kids to name the team, the little bee stingers or the blue crashers, and there's zero connection to the professional level. We're doing it very, very wrong, especially on the how we introduce this sport to our children. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you mandating or at least trying to get your brand in front of the people who are being introduced to the sport for the first time? What we've figured out is that more people are playing soccer than any other sport. Soccer gets the first shot. All right, there you are. Here I am. Again, this is Unleashed. I'm Eric Wynalda. I just want to thank everybody for all the engagement. Very quickly, it's gotten a lot more fun. A lot of people have engaged with Unleashed and GOLZ TV, and it's been a lot of fun, actually. Even though sometimes I've had a go at people, I've kind of said some stuff that I don't regret it. You know, I think this is a learning process for some people, especially when we talk about promotion, relegation, and tournaments in America and the way we do things in this country. It's been an educational process. And look, I'm not trying to be the expert on this stuff. I'm just trying to enlighten you that we do things differently here. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It just means this is the way we do it. And when you look at other countries and other places in the world that do things differently and more successfully, let's be honest, that's the reason why I enjoy this, because this is all about one thing, if I'm really being honest, and that's making this country, the United States of America, a better soccer nation. We all want the same thing, but we need to stop dragging our feet and figure out how to cut some of this red tape so we can get better a little bit faster than I guess some people would like it to be. All right, one of the things that we want to talk about today is something that just kind of hit me about 3-4 days ago. It was a concept that I started to develop about 20 years ago. It's a concept that I essentially went and proposed this to Major League Soccer because I felt that this was one of the things that they were missing in their business plan, or however you want to put it, of how they were going to make the initial attachment to our audience, to our players, to the people that play this game. Back then, it was more about getting more people to engage, more people to understand what Major League Soccer is, and that number has grown exponentially over the last 20 years. So maybe this is a better time to do it. But here's what I want to challenge you with, and I want you to just think if go back to your childhood. Go back to when you were 6, 7, 8 years old, when you were introduced to sport. And one of the things that we realize is that it really comes down to 3 concepts: what they are wearing, what they are watching, and what they are playing. Those three things determine whether the sport is really successful in your country. And what we've figured out is that more people are playing soccer than any other sport. And that's pretty obvious. Soccer gets the first shot, right? I mean, the basketball hoop's too high. You got to play t-ball. You're not playing baseball. Nobody can pitch, and it's not even safe. And obviously, you're not going to play football and put a helmet on. You're going to play flag football. So the kids run around and they pull the flag. Nobody's tackling anybody because it's dangerous. Soccer is the one sport that you don't have to worry about all that stuff. Now, from a psychological standpoint, you need to also understand that when we introduce our children to structure and to school, it's right in the middle of the developmental stage of play. So this is where our children develop 90% of their personality in between those ages, almost up to 7. I've studied this, okay? I've looked into it, and this has been a lifelong engagement for me. I lived this through my own children, and I took it upon myself to do a year-long study how we introduce the sport to our children, and I discovered a lot in that process. There's a couple of funny stories in there, but the truth is we're doing it wrong. We're doing it very, very wrong on the marketing side, which I'm going to get into right now, but especially on the how we introduce this sport to our children, because it's a daunting thing. Right? I mean, 2, 3, 4 million every year become, parents of a 5, 6-year-old child. And they are trying to figure out, how do we get our kid exercising? How do we get him into sports? And 9 times out of 10, it's soccer first. And this is my frustration because I've watched it happen for so many years. I know what my experiences were, but I've watched us do it wrong. And, just stay tuned on GOLZ TV and Unleashed for that matter, because we're going to be introducing concepts that will help you understand the sport a lot better, a lot faster. So the kids don't drop out, don't get burned out. But as far as parents go, I'm going to give you the blueprint of how to do this. And it's not as daunting as you think. It's actually a hell of a lot easier than we make it. So stay tuned for that. But the concept that I wanted to introduce today is think back to your childhood when you were that age and when you were introduced to baseball. Okay, if you were introduced to baseball. If you weren't introduced to baseball, this is the concept that they've been using for decades, and it works, and we don't do it. And it's one of the biggest problems that our sport has with connecting the dots as far as the professional level and or the top of this pyramid, if you will, to the very basis of grassroots. So baseball, and I can tell you this as a kid, growing up in Westlake Village, California, I was introduced to baseball when I was about 7 years old, right? But I played for the Baltimore Orioles, right? The next year I played for the Detroit Tigers, and the year after that, I think I was a Yankee. It's kind of hard when a bunch of Dodger fans growing up in California are wearing Yankee hats. But what happened in that moment? That first year when I became a Baltimore Oriole, what did I ask? What was the question? Dad, who the hell, maybe I didn't say hell, but who are the Baltimore Orioles? Who are these guys? Like, what is this? Immediately, I'm getting a geography lesson and the realities of, hey, there is a top end to this sport. And there's a team in Baltimore, so now I know where that is. And I, to this day, still know who Brooks Robinson is simply because I asked the question, who are they? Are they any good? And I'm number 9. Who's on that team? This is how it works. This is what baseball did, and it was tenfold better than what we're doing. Think about soccer. When you're introduced to soccer, what do? You allow the kids to name the team, the little bee stingers, or the blue crashers, or whatever. And there's zero connection to the professional level. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but this is one of the fundamental reasons why it takes so long for our children to understand the sport. And if you are really thinking about connecting to people, especially in a World Cup year, introduce them from the, don't give them a choice. I know that sounds horrible. Oh, but it's so fun. We get to make a banner and there we are, the Little Rockers, whatever you are, whatever color the team is. It's the dumbest thing in the world. And it actually causes confusion. If soccer could ever figure that out. So I'm speaking directly to Major League Soccer. I don't care. Steal the idea. I tried 20 years ago and you guys couldn't figure it out then. Maybe you'll figure it out now. When children are introduced to the sport, introduce them to Major League Soccer through the brands that exist. It's okay for kids in Dallas to wear a Vancouver Whitecaps jersey. It is. It's actually a pretty good idea. Well, we're on the Red Bulls. Oh, that's cool. What team are you? We're the Fire. Immediately, these children have a connection to the professional game and to our players. If you're the NWSL, if you're the USL, if you're the Super League, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you mandating or at least trying to get your brand in front of the people who are being introduced to the sport for the first time? Now, we're coming into a World Cup year, and some of you might remember, yes, I did have a failed attempt of trying to become the president of the United States Soccer Federation. And we don't need to get into the details there, but this was one of the ideas that I wanted to put into action to connect our youth and our parents to the professional level. And you could only do that through branding. I get it. There's a licensing agreement that goes along with this, but this would be the smartest way that we could, in a World Cup year, connect all these new faces and these new kids. I mean, every year, I don't know how many people become a father or a mother of a 5 to 6 year old child who's looking for something to do. And just deciding that you're going to go play soccer because it sounds like a good idea to keep you going, this is a missed opportunity by Major League Soccer. We ask ourselves the question, well, how come Real Madrid and Barcelona and Chelsea and Manchester United and Man City and Arsenal, why are most of our kids wearing that? Back to that point. It's because they don't know any better. We actually can see them on television, and then we say, well, those are the biggest teams in the world. In the United States, we now are getting closer to 32 teams that could be a part of this process. There are actually 80 teams if you start counting up the women's leagues and what's going on in the lower divisions in this country. Yeah, I get it. It's not all connected, but I would love to see a kid in Thousand Oaks, California, wearing a Charleston Battery jersey. Because two things happen there. Who the hell is the Charleston Battery, and how can I watch them? And is there somebody on that team that I might know who isn't famous or is famous who I want to be like? Maybe you're on board with this, maybe you're not. I would love to hear your comments on this because I do feel passionate about it. I do think this is something that soccer has kind of missed the boat with, and it needs to be changed, especially in the upcoming year. And 2026 is going to be special for a lot of reasons. But why not make it the beginning of the connections to the next generation of our superstars? Well, just people that love the game. You don't have to be a superstar. You just have to love the sport. You love the sport through connections. That's how you do it. Baseball figured it out, and that's why they're getting the lion's share of people wearing their jerseys, not us. Think about it. Give me a call. Well, not call me. Well, you could call me. I'm just not going to answer. Send me your responses, and we'll talk about it next time. This is Unleashed, and keep it coming.